Alright, welcome back to Adobe Maya 2017. So in this tutorial we're going to cover using the cleanup tool in Maya, which helps us with geometry. I'm going to go ahead and add a polygon cube here, and I'm going to go in the channel box here, and I think I'll go to the input and just subdivide it a little bit, highlight all these divisions and just add a couple divisions here. So this is an instance that a lot of people come into is you have perhaps selected several faces. Maybe you meant to extrude and you clicked on the extrude, and then you clicked away and you neglected or forgot that you extruded. So if we hit number 3 on the smooth preview, you can see there's extra faces there. If we go back to number 1 here, and yeah, so you basically want to delete those faces. And sometimes it's hard to figure out, where those duplicate faces are. This is one of the most common mistakes I see with new users. Sometimes they'll select the entire piece of geometry and then click on the extrude, not realizing they extruded the entire piece of geometry, all the faces. So the cleanup tool is under the mesh menu. Go down to cleanup towards the bottom here. Again, under mesh and then cleanup. We'll open up this window here, and there's a couple options here. So the first one is what kind of operation you want to do. The cleanup basically actually does the operation, or you can choose to select the matching polygons and basically modify it yourself individually. But this will highlight, so if you have a large piece of geometry, this will highlight what's wrong with it basically. So I'm going to leave it on cleanup there. You can apply to selected objects, or you can apply to all polygon objects. So if you have several objects throughout your scene that are similar and they have the similar issue, you could apply it to all of them. Down below you have two options. You have fixed by tessellation, which is basically subdividing it with edges and faces, or removing geometry. And so with this case, we want to remove geometry. We want to get rid of those extra faces. So which of these options do we choose? Well, faces that are extruded but they didn't do anything, they're right on top of each other, and they sort of have zero length here. So you can check this little box, edges with zero length, and click cleanup or apply here if we want to keep this open. And now I click on this and hit number 3, and you'll see that it literally has cleaned up that object, which is pretty cool. Another issue that can come up is non-manifold geometry. And if I right click, go to edge mode and select some interior edges here, and then do an extrude and pull them out, you'll see here we not only have a flipped edge face, but actual faces that are basically coming out in a sort of strange way because we have extra geometry coming in, which is the non-manifold geometry. So to get rid of this, we could select our object and choose to go through that same process of cleanup. There is a certain issue with this. Let's try the select matching polygons and see what would happen here, and choose the non-manifold option here and check edges, and then click apply, and you'll see here the 4 verts that are basically selected here. So what happens if we allow Maya to clean this up? If I click apply here, it will have cleaned it up in a interesting way. If we go down to, let's see, cleanup, and I have to go back to object mode to do this again, and click apply. So what happens is these are now their own individual planes, which can be removed out, which is fine. You can simply delete them. There is, however, an issue that does occur, which is this. This separates out any faces that were basically connected, or any verts that are connected here. So if we go to object mode here and hit number 3, you might see some issues there, which you can clearly tell there's some issues there, and that's just basically these verts need to be welded here. It's an easy fix. You could select these verts and just weld them together, just merging them. So I'm just going to drag marquee selection over those 4 there. Doesn't look like I need any of these, so I'm going to control drag over those and go to I believe it's under edit mesh, go down to merge, and you can go to the options here and just double check that your threshold is real low here, but essentially click apply. And then if we go back to object mode and hit number 3, now we've got nice welded verts, so we're back to normal. Another issue that might arise is Lamina Faces. So if I right click, go to edge mode, and actually extrude this edge here, and then pull it out, and then actually weld it to the other edge. So this isn't too typical, but issues could happen where you accidentally weld two things together that shouldn't be welded. And if we do the smooth mesh preview, you can see what's going on here. We can go to let's go to mesh and choose the cleanup tool again, and again we'll use cleanup. And if we scroll down here, instead of non-manifold geometry, we can choose the Lamina Faces here, faces sharing all edges basically, and then click apply. And then when we go to smooth mesh, you can see here everything is fine now. So the next thing we're going to cover is how to fix by tessellation. So for example, if I chose to subdivide this using the multi-cut tool, if I made some geometry here and maybe some geometry here that basically had more than, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, polygons, 5 sides here with some triangles. If I want to fix that up, I can right click, go to object mode. It's always important to do the cleanup with object mode. I want to stress that out. But down here, if I want to clean up the matching polygons, choose faces with more than 4 sides is the option, and click apply, and voila, we now have triangles. Now it may not be the most interesting piece of geometry, but it will fix the issue here. In fact, if you choose 4 side faces and click apply, once we go back to object mode here and click apply, what it'll do is it'll triangulate everything here. So you can do that too if you were, but really there's not really a need for that. Most game engines will triangulate your geometry as it brings it in. Now another issue that could happen is concave faces or non-planar faces. So if I select vertex and grab, say, a couple of these verts here, drag them in, you can see here the geometry would be messed up pretty well. I'll even repeat that action over here and kind of pull out, or now pull in again on this side. You can see it causes lots of issues, this kind of geometry here. So to fix this, what you can do is select those. So we can choose concave faces and we can choose non-planar faces and click apply. And what it'll do is it'll essentially triangulate those areas and make it just much nicer for the texture maps and so forth to work with, instead of faces that aren't working at all, which would be concave faces, non-planar faces. So that's the basic overview of the cleanup tool, what it can do for you. The one thing I want to point out before we leave here, the main thing is make sure you're in object mode when you use this tool. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial on using the cleanup tool in Autodesk Maya. Until next time, cheers.